You are much loved. You are much of the worthiness, and we are much of the gratitude for this of the moments. We are much of the proudness. You must be remembering that when we stood on the other side together and you are putting of your hand up saying, I wish to be coming down to be of the doing of this workness, we thought you had much of the braveness. And you asked whether Ameed would be coming with you, and I'd be saying, no, I'm not going down there. I'm not of the silliness. And I'm much of the proud and happy that you be of the choosing. And I was here of the saying, I will be on the other side to be here and being of the supporting. But you are much of the braveness and much of the courageness. And this we wish for you.
We don't realize how brave we are that, we've come into this dense way of living and to forget who we are. Like we
Totally.
forget who we are. We forget that where we've
Totally.
come from. We forget our powers. We forget our divinity. We forget what we're
Mm,
capable of. And we have to
mm.
remember. Welcome to Galactic Guidance, the show that channels the wisdom of beings from higher realms. Join us as we tap into the cosmic consciousness and receive messages of clear guidance to help us navigate our spiritual evolution on planet Earth. So sit back, relax, and let's connect into the higher frequency. Hello, beautiful people. This is Eleni and Marcus, and we are bringing another episode of Galactic Guidance. In this episode, we want to talk about the old way versus the new way. So I'm going to be asking Marcus, who is then going to be channeling the answer from Ameed, some differences in the way that we used to do things and the new way we're going to be doing things. But before we do that, I just thought I'd ask you a question, Marcus, that's for you.
That's fun. Love a question just for me.
Before you get into your trance state and
Yeah.
channel Ameed, I was wondering, when you talk normally, like you are now, when you're
Yes.
consciously speaking, how much of it drops in from Ameed, do you think, in terms of your answers, your responses?
I think often if I'm seeing clients or doing that sort of clienty work or teaching work, I often I'll say things and I'll go, wonder where that came from. Like I'll go, I don't know any of that. Someone will ask me a question or a problem arises, and if I thought consciously about it, I go, I have no idea. But then all these words come out, and I go, okay, great, thanks for that. That was good. So I think in general day-to-day conversation, there's probably not a lot. But if we were to go deep, or I was doing training, or I was with a client, or then it often does. And often I sit there and go, oh, I wish I had recorded that because I can't remember. I don't know I don't
Yeah,
remember that to then go and share it somewhere else because it was like, but I know that's for that moment, for that person or in that situation. So it's not necessarily meant to be captured and shared, possibly.
yes, yes.
But yeah, that
That
happens all the time.
So that just reminds me of, when I was teaching a lot. And
Yeah.
and at the beginning, when you start teaching, say you're teaching for a whole day event or something, like the first half hour might be yourself, but then the more the day goes on, the more you're into the flow. I'm feeling, wow, this is just really flowing and all these words are just coming out. And where
Yeah.
is all this coming from? And all the clients I used to see, I used to feel that in the room where the perfect words would come out in the
Yeah.
perfect moment.
Totally.
That was just like, wow, this is incredible. And I knew that I can't be that quick.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're all channeling. And this is just the point that I want to make to everybody, is that everybody's channeling all the time when you're in
Yeah.
flow.
Totally.
And,
Totally.
when we think about the creativity in the world and artists, authors, and movie producers and so on, where does all that come from? It
Yeah. Yeah.
comes because they're channeling something greater than them when they're
Totally.
in flow.
Totally.
Because the
Totally.
ego mind doesn't have the capacity to do anything new. The ego is only reliant on what has been, not on something that hasn't been created before. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so that sort of just confirmed what I thought to
Yeah.
be the case, Marcus.
Yeah.
And so when
Totally.
you're ready, I'd
Ooh.
love to have a talk to
All right.
Ameed.
Yeah. Let's do that. Ah.
So Marcus is now going into this state that he goes in every single episode. He centers himself and he feels the presence of Ameed. Ameed is a high dimensional being from the Lyra star system, which is an advanced planet. So Ameed is physical. Ameed is a physical female being. And Marcus has been channeling Ameed now for the last 30 years. And the first episode of this series tells you Marcus's story, how he started doing this, and how to begin with he was in complete disbelief that he was actually channeling a higher dimensional being. And we have these beautiful discussions every week, which I really look forward to. So once Ahmed comes through, what I would invite you to do is just feel the energy, because I feel the energy when Ahmed comes through. It's really, I can actually feel it now. It's quite strong and powerful, and it feels very loving. If you close your eyes and just listen to this podcast, it actually feels very, very, very loving. And I can feel it in my heart.
Mm, it is a march of the welcomeness that we are in this of the sacred moment. This is a much of the specialness. And Miss Eleni, we are much of the happiness to be in the joyful experience of the connection that we are being of the having in this moment. We are sitting on this of the side of the universal construct, feeling into of the resonant field that you are being of the sharing. And I think this is much of the one thing that we would be good for everybody to be of the hearingness is that we are tuning into or are connecting into of the resonant field that you are being of the sharingness. And as you're being of the speaking, there is a resonant energy of the resonant frequency that is being of the emitted through the individual, but also of the collective. And this is what we are being of the connecting into, and this is what we are being of the experiencing. And in your of the worldness, you are being of this, in of the feeling of this. This is a part of your what you be calling of the radio connection is through of your feelings. But if you can be connecting into the deeper version of this, not just of the ego affected of the feelings, not of those feelings that get of the woundedness, but in the deeper of the feelings that understands of the truthfulness. This is one of the messages that we wish to be sharing with you in this of the new solar cycle, is of the truthfulness and of the untruthfulness. This is what we have been talking about in our other of the connections. And you can feel of the truthfulness when you're being of the dropping in on that much deeper resonant level of experience. And Miss Eleni, you have been of the experiencing this.
Mm. Oh, yes, I can feel the energy as soon as you came in, and it's really, really, really beautiful. I mean, I've got a question for you that is about the new way of doing things, which is more aligned with our soul, as opposed to the old way of doing things, which was really driven by the ego. And so, for example, with the ego, we did a lot of efforting, a lot of working, a lot of hard work, and then we achieve results. With the soul, when we're embodying the soul, it's about filling into, being aligned, and then whatever we desire sort of comes into our field. But what my question is in relation to is, with the soul embodiment and being aligned with, you know, a higher level of consciousness, and we are following the yellow brick road, there's still challenging moments in terms of things we don't want to do. So the next logical step is not always joyful. So as an example, I'll give myself as an example here. Um, I've finished writing the manuscript to my book. And the next logical step is actually quite painful. Like, the next logical step is having to write a lot of book proposals and pitches, and it's just really quite tedious. And, in that moment, I'd rather go swimming in the water than doing those things. From a higher perspective, do we just need to once again buckle down and do the things we don't want to do? Because I really thought that was the old way of doing things. So can you elaborate on doing it the new way and still progressing to the next logical step? But is it always joy, or is it sometimes a pain in the ass like it used to be?
This is much of the goodness of the questions. What you must be understanding is that you have been of the labeling of one of the activities or another of the activities. And then you are being of the expectation that joy will be of appearing, and that you are being then labeling, well, this thing that I must be doing is joyful, and this thing I must be doing is of the painful nature. But you must be considering what is causing it to be of the painful nature. Who is not to be of the saying that it is of a joyful nature? Because what you will be experiencing is some people will be considering that activity as joyful, and others will be considering that activity as of the painfulness. So what is making it of the painfulness? It is not of the activity within itself, because the activity is not causing of the painfulness. It is the connection and the flow activity that is causing of the painfulness. When you are in of the flow, you will be feeling of the joyness. When you are resisting and keeping out of the flowness, you will be of the experiencing of the painness. So when you are thinking of the next dimension of the reality, the next resonant field of the reality, then you can start to be of the expansion of consciousness, where you can be of the choosing and being of the flow state, that everything becomes of the joyness. Even those are of the activities that you think are of the hardness or of the painfulness that you are being of the speaking of. There are of the activities that you will need to be of the doing from a collective point of view to ignite and to be welcoming in of the new dimension of the reality. There is some what you would be calling some of the workness to needs to be of the doing, but this does not necessarily mean that it is of the hardness. This is just what a construct that you are giving it, not necessarily the activity that you are being of the doingness. So you are overlaying of a label into this activity, but this is not of the truthfulness. So then we would be saying to you, Miss Eleni, what if it was of the joyness? What if that activity was of the joyness? What if you were to channel the joyness of that activity? What if you were to place yourself into of the flowness? So the first thing that we would be asking you of the doing is go for the swim. Before you do of the activity, go for of the swim, and then come back into doing of the activity. But as you enter into of the activity, you will be thinking of the joyness. How can I be of the joyness in this activity? How can I be in of the flowness of this activity? How can I connect into the resonant field that will be the result of the activity? Then you will be able to be of the experiencing of the joy. You are much of the correctness that the old of the timeline, the old of the resonant field timeline, which is now in the disappearing stage, is much connects much to this experience that you are of the having. But the new of the timeline is not as such. It is much more expanded in its consciousness. It connects much more to the truthness, and it lets the untruthness be released. It allows the restrictions to be of the release, so you can step into a much more harmonic, resonant pattern. So if you are thinking about this of the activity in a resonance field construct, then you can realize that it is of your consciousness that is creating, whether this is of the painfulness or of the hardness. But this is not of the truth. The activity itself is none of such. You are being of the applying of this. So you could make this much of the joyness.
I heard what you said. I mean, so basically, when you were talking, I was imagining that with the activities that I'm not looking forward to doing, like to create a bit of sacredness around it, light some candles, put some beautiful music, and actually look forward to sitting down and doing what I need to do, knowing that this is an opportunity to reach out to people so that they could read my book and we could progress. And so, yeah, so to put yourself in a state where you are receiving joy from that. And it's all about perception. It's all about what we perceive it to be. We could perceive it to be hard, or we could perceive it to be joyful. Is that right?
Yes, you must be of the understanding that this of the theme park is much like of the trainingness. This is helping you to refine and be of the defining of resonant frequencies to assist in the expansion of consciousness throughout the universe. Therefore, what you are being of defining here is an opportunity to connect in at much more what you call of the expanded resonant frequency, that which joy does of the existing in. So you are being here in the challenging space to be of the learning to expand your consciousness, because when you are playing with of the joyness, with of those activities that make you of the happiness, you are not doing of any of the training. You are just being of the experience. But when you are trying to when you are being of the ask to change something that is of the painful nature into the joy nature, this is when you are in of the training. This is when you are growing of your consciousness. This is when you are expanding into the truthfulness. And you are able to then release of the untruth. The untruth in this of the exampleness is that the activity is not of the painful nature. You are just being of the applying that this is of a painful nature, but that is not the truth. The truth is this activity is whatever you wish for it to be of the activity, and that you can make this much of the joyfulness. And even if you are still playing of the struggle of the joyfulness, you can be of the understanding that this is of my training. If I am going to be of the expanded consciousness nature, then I need to be able to be of the direction of the thought and of the mindscape. And I need to be able to be of the direction of the heartscape, so that I can be of the choosing, and I can be of the empowerment of the choosing, whether I think something is a being of the painfulness or being of the joyness. Then I am stepping into the expanded resonance of the next dimension of reality. This is much of the excitement.
I love what you've just said then. And I'm just going to summarize really quickly what you've just said, which is that, yes, when we're doing things that we love, it's just experiencing life and, experiencing life at its fullest. But when we do things that we think we don't like and turn it around so that we do like it, then we're actually training ourselves and improving ourselves and expanding into a higher level of consciousness. So that is an opportunity to keep expanding and keep growing, which I think is a really important point. And I really appreciate and grateful for that. So, Ameed, do you have anything that you would like to add, anything at all that we need to hear right now? Any final comments?
What you must be of the understanding is in this of the dimension of reality and this of the old timeline you've been working in, what is understood by your of the quantumness is in a positive space-time scenario. When you are in of the positive space-time environment, then you will be learning through of the resistance. Only in of the resistance do you begin to be of the growingness. You are understanding this when you are doing of the physicality. When you have of the resistance, you are growing much more of your physical of your strengthness. It is exactly the same with of the consciousness. When you are in a space of the resistance, then you are exercising of your consciousness. When, as you move through the dimensional realities, eventually you will come to what is understood by your of the quantumness is what you'd be calling a negative space-time environment. When you are living in of the negative space-time environment, everything is happening in the opposite, which is that you don't be learning through the resistance. You actually begin to be of the expanding through the experience of the joyness. But it is a moment in of the earthbound of the experience is you are still living in of the positive space-time environment, and therefore you are exercise through of the resistance. But this is being of the changing. And as you reach of the threshold into of the next dimension, you will begin to see of the more of the obviousness of this reality. And therefore, you're thinking of the resistances of the hardness, the resistances of the painfulness. But no, this is not the truth of the reality. The resistance is of the opportunity. It is of the opportunity for you to be in the expanded nature of the reality. It is of the work that you have been here to be of the doingness and of the beingness, is to step into this expanded quality of your humanness of the reality scape. And therefore, the resistance is much of the exciting opportunity for you to be in the expanded nature of the reality, which is much of what you're becoming here to be of the doingness.
Ameed, is there any final thing that you would like to say, whether it's personal or anything else, before we bring Marcus back?
There is much of the excitement in this of the new solar cycle, much of the excitementness. There is much that you will see in the unfoldingness this of the solar cycle. And you will be experiencing much of the dimensional shift as you get closer to what we are being calling of the event horizon. You might be considering this of the line in the sand. There is when you are looking at dimensional shifts from one of the dimensions into another dimension, from into a more expanded reality, you will see that there is a lining of the sand, and you will be experiencing much of the resistance. This resistance will be of the increasing until you get right to the line, this event horizon, and then everything will be of the shifting. Much of that, what you'd be calling of the hardness, the painfulness, will be appearing in this of the year, this of the solar cycle. It will be much more of the increasing. But for you to be navigating through this in a much of the stable state is just to be of the releasing, just to be of the shifting of the mindscape and of the heartscape, and just allowing of this energetic quality to be in the flowness and not to be in the resistanceness. This is where of the painfulness does be of the appearing. And you will be noticing that there will be much of your old patterns that will be of the appearing again. And you will be saying to us, you'll be saying, Ameed, I thought I had been dealing with this. I thought I had shifted this. I thought I had done all the work that I needed to be of the doingness with this. And we will be saying to you that this is just part of the reaching of the reaching of this lining of the sand. The energetic quality will be heightening. These things will be appearing, and then they will be in the explosive nature of disappearing and dissipating. And therefore, you must not be drawn into of the painfulness and of the sadness and of the frustration of these things being in the appearance state. They are coming into the appearance to be transitioned through in and of the past, and you will be experiencing them in much of the shortness of the burst, not in the longness of the burst. So you might be being in of the feeling of the sadness state, or being of the feeling of the unworthy state, or being in whatever of the feelings that you're being of the having, and they will last, but they will be in much more of the intenseness. And just know that these are short, much of the shorter lived, and much of the intenseness is assisting in helping you to expand into the next dimension of the reality scape, so that you can be part of the shifting, so that you can step over of the line, so that you can be sitting at the event horizon, ready to explode into the next dimension of the reality scape. So we wish for you just to be of the understanding of this, so that you are not being of the saying, Miss Eleni, but I thought I had been of the doing this. I thought I had been of the clearing this. This is of the truth. You have been of the clearing this, but in this of the last moments before the ground of the shiftness, you will be of the feeling and of the experiencing of the heightening of these what you'd be calling of the traumas and of the dramas and of the painfulnesses. But they are being of the short-lived, and they are what you'd be calling of the goodness of the sign. So we wish for you. We wish to share this information with you, so you do not get in the stuckness, and that you do not think that that you have been not of the goodness, because it's all being of the coming back again. This is just full of the circular motion of the resonance shifting. And it is much of the okayness, and you need to you can be of the relaxing and of the understanding, and not be of the connectedness to these of the states. Again, these are the resistant pieces that are helping you to be of the expanded nature of your consciousness shift. It is part of the consciousness technology.
So this, just one final question before we bring Marcus back. I understand what you said about these events occurring in the next solar cycle. And will they be over in the next solar cycle? Or are they going to continue into the cycle after that?
This is much of the dependent of how you are placing yourself into this state of the beingness. If you can be of the releasing, if you can be of the letting go-ness, if you can be of moving past of the resistance and into of the flow state, then this could be happening much of the soonerness. We don't, as you are being of the understanding, we do not make of the predictions of whether something is happening in a certain of the day, because we want to be of the influencing of the journey that you are being of the taking in this space. But you are influencing that of the timeline. And once you are being in the expandedness of conscious state, then the shift will be able to be of the appearing, but it is coming of the much closer, and you will be feeling of the heightening of the energetic field as it comes of the much closer, and you'll be realizing when this shift is going to be of the taking. You will be seeing like of the fireworks, you will be seeing of the heightenedness of both of the solar planetary system, but also of the earthscape and of the interdimensional scapes. You will be seeing and being of the notification. You will be understanding when the shift is happening, but you will be feeling more of the heightening and more of the heightening of the energetics. We wish for you just to be connecting into this, but not being part of this. You are of the separateness to this. You can be of the observer to this. And the more you can be of the doing this, the more you will be of the expanding. And the more you be of the expanding, the faster then this transition will be of the happening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Much love, much of the joyness. This is much of the sacredness in this of the moment. You are much loved. You are much of the worthiness, and we are much of the gratitude for this of the moments. We are much of the proudness. You must be remembering that when we stood on the other side together, and you are putting of your hand up saying, I wish to be coming down to be of the doing of this workness, we thought you had much of the braveness. And you asked whether Ameed would be coming with you, and I'd be saying, no, I am not going down there. I'm not of the silliness. And I am much of the proud and happy that you be of the choosing. And I was here of the saying, I will be on the other side to be here and being of the supporting. But you are much of the braveness and much of the courageness. And this we wish for you to remember. It took much of the courageness and the braveness to choose to be here in this moment at this of the timescape. You must be very proud of yourself for being of that choosing. Like we are much of the proudness of your choosing. And we are here to be of the supporting. You are doing much of the grandest. We are much of the love.
Thank you.
Oh, jeez. Oh. Hello. Wow. Oh, God.
She got me all teary now.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
How did we
geez,
go?
that was funny at the end what she said when she's like, we're on the other side, and I'm like, I'm going down there, and she's like, well, you're very brave, and I'm like, will you come with me? And she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no, I'm not that silly. I'm not coming down with you. Watch from this side, thanks.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
it just shows you
yeah,
that, all of us that are down here, and, when she said that, she wasn't talking to me, she was talking to everybody that's chosen to
totally,
be here during this
totally.
time. We don't realize how brave we are that, we've come into this dense way of living and to forget who we are. Like we
Totally,
forget who we are. We forget that where we've
totally.
come from. We forget our powers. We forget our divinity. We forget what we're capable of. And we have to
Mm,
remember,
yeah,
you know.
that's exactly it. It's about, well, the remembering is part of the expansion. That's the fun part
Mm,
about this, you know. The understanding I have now is that the forgetfulness and then the expansion that we go through is that helps the grand expansion. You know, because if we remembered why we came here and what we were for, and we didn't have to go on that journey to discover, then what would we be doing here? I
yeah,
mean, we wouldn't be doing any expansion because we'd just be. We just go, well, I know it all and I'm living it all, and we'd
yeah,
be, yeah, we wouldn't be part of the breathing out of the universe,
yes. And
right?
what's interesting in terms of what she said was, it's beautiful to have the beautiful, joyful experiences that we love doing, but the experiences that we don't love doing, if we turn that around so that we love doing them, that's the training ground.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's easy to be joyful in joyful situations. It's difficult to be joyful in not joyful situations. But that's when we
Yeah.
need to be joyful, right? That's where the
Yes.
expansion comes from. Because, like she was saying, you know, I get that training because that's where the muscle is tested. You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah. If we were at a gym and we just looked at the weights and went, I have joy looking at weights, you know, because they're pretty and they look good. But if we don't pick a weight up, nothing happens.
Mm.
And you might go, for those not into the gym, which I'm not, you know, picking that weight up is like, oh my God, that would be so painful. But that's where the muscles get strong. They don't get strong by looking at the weights. They only get
Mm.
strong when you pick them up. And that's because of the reality we exist in.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, Marcus, because it's like, like we had to learn discipline to achieve certain things, and then we had to let go of the discipline to surrender ourselves,
Yeah,
and then we would need to reacquaint ourselves with discipline, but in a different way in order to
totally.
expand. It's like that's
Yeah,
the circular kind
yeah,
of,
totally.
it's
Totally.
not black and white.
No. And it's a bit like that saying, you know, before enlightenment, chop wood. During enlightenment, chop wood. After enlightenment, chop wood.
Uh,
But you're chopping it from a different place now. Do you know what I mean? Like a more
yeah.
expanded place. So your chopping's different than what it was at the start. But you're still chopping wood just because of the reality we live in. There's still resistance, right? And the resistance creates the expansion.
Yeah, that's really important. You're still chopping wood. You're
Still
still
chopping
chopping
wood,
wood.
but you're doing it at a different level. Do you know what I mean? Like with a different consciousness and a different awareness, and you know, you're into a different reality, but we're still chopping wood.
Yeah, I feel like I had this massive like aha moment in this session. Like,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah,
it's not like you stop chopping the wood. You still got to chop the wood, but you just hold it differently.
yeah. You chop it differently, you hold it differently. But I think
Yeah. But in the meantime, Ameed gave me
in the
some
meantime,
warning.
oh, is that
She
right?
said, yeah, she said this year, she said more things that I would consider to be hard,
Yeah,
sad, frustrating are coming. She
yeah,
said it was like a warning. So when they come, the way for them to pass really quickly is to just be in full surrender and full acceptance, and then
totally,
they pass quickly. But if we resisting, they're going to last longer.
totally,
So she gave me this
totally.
really big warning. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's what's
yeah.
coming ahead, because as you talked about the quickening, as we quicken,
Oh, yeah,
well,
yeah,
we need to do bigger hurdles before we finally jump over.
yeah, 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 yeah. So it's a good sign in some respects, even though
Yeah,
it's going to have its
because it means
challenges.
we're getting close.
Correct. We're
We're
getting
getting
really close,
close.
really close. Yeah, yeah. And it's always darkest
Oh,
before the light. Isn't that saying? Some saying they have.
yes,
It's always darkest before the light. So,
absolutely.
and that's a
Oh my
positive
God.
space-time experience, right? That's exactly what happens in that positive space-time environment. So,
So
yeah,
many big things this session. Like you
yay,
still have to cut wood. It's
yeah,
always darkest before the light.
That one.
And, if we could just close off by saying that when you're faced with a challenging situation or a frustrating situation or a sad situation, fully surrendering rather than fighting
Yeah.
against that is going to get you
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
quicker.
Totally. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's
Thank you so
beautiful.
much,
Thank
Marcus.
you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching, and
And
see you next
make
time.
sure you share this message. Make
Oh,
sure you
yes,
like this message. Make
please.
sure that you comment on this message so that we could keep bringing this forward to you. Okay, sending
Nice.
you so much
Beautiful.
love.
Lots of love. Ciao. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Galactic Guidance. We hope that the messages that you receive from the higher realms have brought you clarity, insight, and comfort. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Remember to stay connected to your own inner guidance and trust the journey ahead.